Hey guys, Wrestling Rambles 89 back again today with another reaction video. This time I'll be reacting to Stone Cold talking about hanging out with William Regal while they were away from WCW. Now, William Regal is always incredibly entertaining, both in the ring and in interviews and stuff. So I wasn't really sure or aware too much about him being such good friends with Austin, so I'm curious to hear what kind of stuff they got up to. So yeah, anyway, without wasting any more time, let's get started.
The phone to talk to Rick in Los Angeles. Hey, Rick, how are you?
Steve, what's up, man?
Hey, man, what brings you to the show today? What do you want to talk about?
Well, Steve, I've been listening since 2013, love the show, and I always like when you talk about the days in Central Florida when you used to tape WCW down there for weeks and months at a time. Who did you hang with back then, and how'd you pass the time, and how long were those WCW tapings? And also, I've heard you tell a story behind the picture on the bus, but there's this other picture that I've seen. It's you and Steamboat, Arn Anderson, and Regal, and Kevin Sullivan on the beach. So I was just wondering if there was any story behind that photo.
Man, as far as who I was hanging with at the time, for the most part, it was William Regal.
Nice.
He came down to WCW whenever he came in, and I watched that guy work a match. And I was like, when I first saw him, I was like, oh, man, who's this guy from England? And all of a sudden, he goes out there and works. And I believe it was a match in Center Stage in Atlanta. And, man, he just lit it up. All this badass chain wrestling, his work. And he was selling his ass off. And I was like, holy smokes, this guy's good. I went and introduced myself to him. I told him, I said, man, that was an awesome match. And, man, we bonded from that day forward, and we became just the best of friends and travel partners. So that's who I was hanging with, to answer your question. To pass the time, because there was a lot of time to be passed, I wasn't exactly, on the hot booking part of the show. Everybody else was getting pushed. I was just kind of there. And so we had a lot of time to kill, and we killed it I killed it by drinking a lot of damn whiskey and a lot of beer. And there used to be an English pub called Rover's Return in Kissimmee, Florida, right outside of Orlando. And me and William would stay out that neck of the woods. And we would go to Rover's Return, drink Guinness Stout, and throw darts every single night, all night. Then we get up, go to the gym, and then we go to the television tapings. That's the answer to that part of the question. As far as that picture, and we were all there at the beach that day, and we were just hanging out, and someone snapped that picture. And I'm guessing that picture is probably from about, 93, 94. About 95, I was starting to get beat up. I was still in pretty good shape, it looked like then. Then I was going to tear that tricep off my arm before I headed to ECW and WWF. So I think that picture was, give or take, maybe 93, 94. And we were just hanging out on the beach, passing through, working our ass off, being pro wrestlers.
So, Steve, I know that's a popular state to live. Did you, at least for wrestlers, I should say, because of the state income tax, I know you live in Texas throughout your career. Did you ever consider living in Florida back in the day?
A lot of the guys ended up down there in Tampa just because of the territory system back in the day. And then a lot of the WWF guys still live down there, and it was kind of a hotbed. But just because it was a territory and because a lot of people like living there because of the weather and the taxes. For me, just a little too far south, but I always loved all those towns. And I particularly loved Jacksonville, Florida. For some reason, that Coliseum in that damn town was just an awesome building. It was old school. It's probably still standing for all I know, but it had this great atmosphere in it. I never really thought about living in Florida. I was living in Atlanta at the time. That was a great hub to be based out of. You can make all the shots pretty damn easy with where we were taping at. But I'll never forget one time in Jacksonville, Florida. I'll give you a Brian Pillman story. We were working a six-man tag. I can't remember who everybody was, but one of the guys on my team was Brian Pillman, and one of the guys across the ring was Van Hammer. And we were working a match, and Brian was notorious for ribbing people. So he says, before he tags in, he goes, "Kid, watch this." And then he tags in, Van Hammer's in. Do you remember Van Hammer?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay, just a big guy, great body, good-looking guy, rock and roll gimmick. Man, they lock up. Pillman takes him in the corner. He says, "No sell the chops." And Brian starts chopping the shit out of Van Hammer. And hell, about 8 chops in, Hammer starts bleeding from his chest. That's how hard those chops were that Brian used to throw. All of a sudden, Brian tells him, "Okay, hulk up." And Van Hammer hulked up and Brian just flopped down and rolled out of the ring and pounded on him. And I was like, God damn you sorry son of a bitch. He beat the shit out of Hammer's chest, had him hulk up, and when he hulked up, he took a powder on the kid. So I was like, God dang, only Brian would think of doing something like that. But that's the kind of guy Brian was. Back to your question. No, I was never going to live in Florida. Great state. Love to go down there. I dig the weather. Miami's a little humid for me. I prefer the Los Angeles kind of climate. And I'll never forget when we used to go down that building down there. It would be hotter than blazes and humid as a son of a bitch. But always a good time down there. Hey, man, I appreciate you calling into the show, Rick.
Okay, so I was expecting more to hear about Regal, but it's just a lot of video about his time at that particular year or years in WCW in general. But that's really cool because you got to hear a good story with a rib with Brian Pillman. Got to hear about hanging out with Regal. And I have to say that it's pretty funny. And what are the chances that there'd be a pub called the Raiders Return that just happened to be nearby that Austin and Regal got to drink? Anyone from England is going to know why that's funny, but if you're not sure, then look it up. Uh, but yeah, just a cool, interesting story. I could have gone on listening and listening to that for ages. Austin is definitely entertaining, even when he's not doing it half funny. But just the way he talks about his past, even something simple like hanging out and just having a few drinks, he always makes it really fun. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much as always for watching. Like, subscribe, click the notifications bell if you haven't already so you never miss an upload. I upload new videos every single day. So yeah, I'll see you in the next one, guys. I'll catch your ass down the road.